McDermott Falcons. Today is Friday, March 27th. Start your day the right way. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stay standing for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Please stay standing for a moment of silence.
Hello everyone! I hope everyone is healthy and well. Welcome to my music corner in my apartment. Today we will be singing some songs and reading a new story that I just recently discovered. At the end of the story, stay tuned because I'm going to show you some materials that I need you to collect this week for next week's lesson. Let's go ahead and start with our vocal warm-up. Most of you have seen my slinky before, and we've used it before in our music class. All right, go ahead and pretend like you have your slinky. We're gonna make a rainbow. I go first. Your turn. Nice job. All right, let's go ahead and do our washing machine. We put our slinky on our hand and we stretch. Woo, 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 woo. Your turn. Stretch. Good job. Let's do it on the other side. Stretch. Woo, 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 woo. Your turn. Stretch. Nice job. All right, the last one is our jump rope. We stretch and jump. Woo, 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 woo. Your turn. Stretch. Woo. Nice job. All right, so here's an instrument that we have seen before in the music room. I'd like you to take some time maybe to see if you can remember what this instrument is called. And maybe you can also try to remember what instrument family it's in. So I will give you 5 seconds to think about that. All right, so if you have an idea, and even if you don't, that's okay. This instrument is called the ukulele. It's similar to a guitar, but it is way smaller and it has less strings. It has our 4 strings. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you guessed what family this is a part of, it is a part of the string family because of our strings. All right, let's go ahead and start with our hello song. Remember, I go first. Hello boys and girls, I'm so glad you came today. Hello boys and girls. All right, it's your turn, but remember, you sing to me. Hello Mrs. Bingham, hello Mrs. Bingham, I'm so glad you came today. Hello Mrs. Bingham. All right, beautiful job. Okay, up next we're going to sing a very familiar song to all of us, our McDermott song. Do your best. There's a place where we love to be, where everyone is always free to be a person who is a respected friend. Together we learn to write and read, explore the world and take the lead, and our learning will never end. We are the Falcons of Robert F. McDermott. We hold our hands up and we touch the future. We are the Falcons of Robert F. McDermott. We hold our hands up and we touch the future. All right, excellent work. Okay, now we're ready for our story. Give me a second while I set this up. Okay, the name of this book is Ada's Violin. It is by Susan Hood, and Sally Comport is the illustrator. Ada grew up in a town made of trash. Every morning at dawn, Ada heard the first garbage trucks rumble and roll down the road at Cateura. Beep, 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 backing into the landfill. They tip their loads up and crash! The trash came tumbling down, 1,500 tons each day. Ada and her friends watched as the gancheros, or recyclers, scrambled, tearing into plastic bags with long-handled hooks, pushing aside moldy produce, and grabbing anything they could recycle or sell. The going rates? 5 cents for a pound of cardboard, 10 cents for a pound of plastic. The noisy, stinking, sweltering slum was not the most nurturing neighborhood. Ada watched, eyes wide, but she didn't say much. And yet, she liked to imagine each garbage truck was a box of surprises. One never knew what might be inside. Her father had found appliances, toys, perfumes, and antique watches. One woman even discovered a small box full of gold jewelry. Little did Ada know there was a bigger surprise waiting for her in the landfill. Every day, when Ada's parents went to work, grandmother loved to sing rock and roll songs from the 1960s. The girls grew up to the tunes of the Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel, and Creedence Clearwater Revival. Ada loved to sing too, but only when no one was watching. Ada's dad brightened the night with stories and songs of great musicians. He turned up the radio and pointed out the sounds each instrument made. Ada heard one above all others. Zing went the strings of the violin. Here you see Ada and her dog and her little sister. When the girls started school, Grandma returned to work as a recycler, collecting bottles and cans in the city. Classes let out at noon. Young Ada was in charge of Noelia until her parents were done with work. At first, the girls stayed close to home, playing with Grandma Marianne's doggies and making sand cakes in the dirt. Soon they joined their cousins, playing hide and seek or a game of handball in the streets. In time, they ventured farther afield, walking down to the bodega to get candy. But Ada noticed the teenagers hanging out in the alleys, grumbling about life in the landfill looming ahead. What would happen to them, to her little sister? She watched as the older kids turned to gangs and got into fights. One day, when Ada was 11 years old, her grandmother saw a sign posted on the wall of a chapel. Violin, guitar, cello, taught Saturdays at 8 a.m. by Fabio Chavez. How Grandma had longed to learn music. Too late for her, maybe, she thought, but not for her granddaughters. She signed them up without asking them, or their parents. Ada's heart sang out. Thanks to her abuela, she could leave her worries behind to learn to play music. At the first class, the teacher, Fabio Chavez, had 3 guitars and 2 violins to share. Ada chose a violin right away, but 10 children had signed up. Frustrated, Ada and her friends found that there were not enough instruments to go around. And there was a bigger problem. Everyone quickly realized that the children would need to practice at home, but it wasn't safe to be seen with an expensive instrument in Cateura, where a violin is worth more than a house. Watching the children play amid broken glass and rusty metal, Senor Chavez knew he had to do something. He remembered a band called Les Luthiers that made its own instruments. That was it! He asked Nicolas Scola Gomez, a ganchero and carpenter, for help. Senor Gomez found a discarded drum with a big hole in it. What could he use to fix it? He picked through the trash and discovered an old X-ray film. Would that work? It did. Senor Gomez kept experimenting, and others, like Tito Romero, helped. Inventing instruments wasn't easy, but they fiddled around, discovering which materials hit just the right notes. They transformed oil drums into cellos, water pipes into flutes, and packing crates into guitars. Here are some more of the instruments that they created. You can see a violin right here. More violins in the back. You see a clarinet, a saxophone. Soon there were enough instruments for all the children who wanted to play. Ada chose a violin made from an old paint can, an aluminum baking tray, a fork, and pieces of wooden crates. Worthless to thieves, it was invaluable to her. It was a violin of her very own. Senor Chavez set up a strict schedule of 3-hour lessons. The class had no classroom, so they played outside, despite the 100-degree heat and sudden downpours. At first, Ada and the others struggled. Sharps and flats changed and clashed. Playing an instrument is a process. It doesn't matter if one is rich or poor, ugly, fat, thin. You cannot learn to play an instrument overnight, Senor Chavez told the children. Some kids decided it was too much work and gave up, but not Ada. After lessons, she would practice at home, sometimes 2 hours a day. I think this one's Ada. In time, the screeches, twangs, and tweets hit all the right notes. Their class became a small island where Chavez taught them to respect themselves and one another. Be kind. Always say please and thank you. Say you're sorry. Be dedicated when you commit to something, Senor Chavez told the children. Soon, the ragtag crew of kids learned to tune in, to listen to one another, to band together. The recycled orchestra was born. From then on, there was something new in the air in Cateura. Gancheros trudging home from the landfill might lift their heads to hear the sounds of Ada's violin, or the strains of Bebi's cello, or the strum of Noelia's guitar. A symphony of sound helped to lift them beyond the heat, the stench, and their aching backs. Oh, here we have Ada. With her violin, Ada could close her eyes and imagine a different life.
She could soar on the high, bright, bittersweet notes to a place far away. She could be who she was meant to be. As Ada's skill grew, so did her confidence. Once timid, she now took center stage playing solos. She helped teach the younger children too. Her teachers and fellow students took note. When she was 12 years old, Ada was named a first violinist. Imagine, she was first at something. Shortly after, she and her 39 fellow musicians were invited to perform concerts in Cateura and later in the nearby capital city of Asunción. Word of this extraordinary orchestra spread. Soon, they were asked to perform in other cities and even other countries. Ada and her friends flew on their first airplane, stayed in their first hotel, swam in the bright blue waters of Rio de Janeiro, sampled their first pastries and pineapple, and saw sights they never imagined. The world dazzled them, just as they dazzled the world. When Ada was 16, the orchestra received a very special invitation. They were asked to tour with a world-famous rock band. More than 35,000 people awaited them at their first concert stop in Bogota, Colombia. Ada was more than nervous. She didn't know how to enter or how to greet the audience. She went blank. She saw a giant stage with glaring lights and heard people screaming. But she didn't have to worry. As a recycled orchestra took the stage, the people who had paid to see the rock band cheered for them. The enormous audience sang and swayed to the music as the orchestra played. As their performance came to a close, a crescendo of cheers, chants, and applause resounded across the park. The astonished kids bowed, grinning at one another. They had discovered the surprise waiting in the landfill. Buried in the trash was music, and buried in themselves was something to be proud of. All right, this is a picture of the actual people in the orchestra. On top it says, "Music allowed us to connect with other people. Without even speaking the language, we understand each other." That's Fabio Chavez, which was their music teacher. And you can also see the instruments that they created out of trash. Well, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this story. I recently discovered this a few weeks ago and have been really wanting to share it with you all. This story is very inspiring. It shows that even without anything, you can make beautiful music. So for next week's class, what I need you to prepare are a few things that you can find in your own home. So one of these things is, this is a paper towel roll. You can also use a toilet paper roll. Those are a little smaller. Or you can use an aluminum foil roll. Whatever you can find that looks like this will work. The next item you will need is foil, aluminum foil. Some kind of stretchy rubber band. So these are actually hair ties that I use, but you will need 2 of them. You'll need some kind of this is a cooking spatula, but we're actually going to be using the rod to make something with this. And I believe that's everything. Oh, and I forgot one thing. You can have raw rice or raw beans. Next week, when I see you, we will make something just like these people in this book made something out of nothing. We're gonna try to create our own instrument. All right, I hope you enjoyed. See you later.
Thanks for watching, and remember, Falcons, take a hand and touch the future. Have a Falcon-friendly day.